Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Level Up Your Mental. My name is Ariel, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. Today, to continue on to the series that I have been doing, we're going to talk about Gucci Mane and his battle with mental health, specifically bipolar disorder and schizophrenia that he recently talked about when it comes to his diagnosis. Now, if you do not know, Gucci Mane is a rapper that was based or grew up in East Atlanta. His name is Roderick Davis. He was exposed early to street life, drugs, violence, which basically shaped the person who he is today. The purpose of this video is really to just explore his mental health journey, what he's really talked about recently, and why it matters. As far as when it comes to his career, his rise in hip hop and trap music, and just the impact of his genre when it comes to his influence on culture. He has had a lot of issues in the past with legal troubles, prison time, and just public controversies with other people. Young Jeezy, if you're not in the hip hop culture, then you wouldn't really know much when it comes to that, but that was one of the big issues that he had back in the day. And we know a couple not too long ago, they had their verses where they were able to be in the same space and it wasn't really that big of an issue. So when it comes to his issues, a lot of Gucci Mane's issues really had to do with alcohol and drugs, which basically made an impact on his mental health, dealing with anxiety, depression, and mood swings. He got into a lot of legal issues where he was in prison for a very long time. I remember when he got out, he was very he looked in this picture, and people were very confused because before he went in, Gucci Mane was bigger. You could tell that he wasn't taking care of himself because of all the drugs and everything that he was doing. He had like that stomach that a lot of people have when they drink lean and just drink a lot of alcohol. So he wasn't really taking care of himself. And for him to come out of jail to look like this, where he lost a lot of weight, he was looking way better and way healthier. People were joking around saying that, oh, it might be a clone and this and that. But now when you look at his stories and just listen to his interviews, he did a lot of work on himself, and I think that was because he was in prison for such a long time. So with his public perception of being a rapper, he basically handled a lot of his battles privately. We didn't really know much. I didn't even know that he had mental health issues because, of course, that wasn't really talked about then. But when he came out with his book not too long ago, he did speak about it, and I think that's where a lot of people started to put a lot of things together. And then also in a recent interview that he had with his wife Keisha Kior, where she basically explained a lot of the stuff that was happening, a lot of the episodes that he went through, and how she was dealing with it, to kind of just make sure that he didn't get sidetracked or had any issues as far as when it comes with how he was perceived in the public. So when it comes to bipolar and schizophrenia, I do want to go over the diagnosis so that we can be educated on what these diagnoses mean, what they look like, and so people can just have an overall understanding. Because for Gucci, he was diagnosed with both, which can be very heavy. When it comes to bipolar disorder, it's categorized as a significant shift in your mood, energy, and activity levels. So these changes can move between manic or hypomanic episodes, which basically means elevated or irritable mood, increased energy, decreased need for sleep. They don't sleep for hours and they still have a lot of energy to, get things done. Racing thoughts, impulsive or risky behavior, and grandiosity, which is basically an inflated self-confidence. So they basically just feel like they are above all and they can just do any and everything. When it comes to the difference between mania and hypomania, mania has very severe symptoms. It causes major disruption in your daily life. It may require hospitalization, and it can include psychosis like delusions and hallucinations. And then you have hypomania, which is a mild form of mania. It has a lot of noticeable changes in behavior, but not severely impairing. There's no hospitalization needed, and psychosis does not occur. As far as when it comes to the mania part, it lasts for at least 7 days. And then for hypomania, it's at least 4 consecutive days. Now, when it comes to bipolar, to continue on, they could also have depressive episodes. So that's persistent sadness or emptiness, very low energy or fatigue, trouble concentrating, feeling of hopelessness, loss in interest in activities. So people like this, usually they don't want to do hobbies, they don't want to hang out with anybody, they kind of just want to just keep to themselves. They don't take a shower. Sometimes they don't take a shower, they don't eat. So very, very low lows. Now, when it comes to schizophrenia, this is a chronic brain disorder that affects your thinking, perceptions, emotions, and your behavior. So common symptoms when it comes to schizophrenia is hallucinations. Usually they are hearing things, delusions, fixed false beliefs, things that are not true, and you can clearly tell when you're speaking with them that it just doesn't make any sense. And they also have disorganized speech or behavior. So you can see that their speech is very erratic, it doesn't make any sense, and you can't really understand what they're saying. They also lose a lot of normal functioning, so they have a flat or reduced emotional expression. You don't really see a lot of smiling or anything, it's kind of just flat. They social withdrawal, so they're not around people as much, and they lose a lot of motivation, so they're not really motivated to do a lot of things. As far as when it comes to their cognitive, they have difficulty with attention, they have impaired working memory, and they have trouble planning or decision making. So when it comes to both, you can tell that both can be both of an issue. With bipolar, it's primary issue of mood instability, and then with schizophrenia, it's a disturbed perception and thinking. With bipolar, you have that manic and depressive cycle. With schizophrenia, you have hallucinations, delusions, and cognitive issues, which is basically just the way that they think, the way that they process things. With bipolar, psychosis may appear during a manic or depressive episode, and with schizophrenia, psychosis is more persistent or unrelated to any type of mood episode. So with schizophrenia, psychosis is just there. It's not related to any type of episode like you would with bipolar, with the mania and the hypomania. In his recent interview with his wife, they spoke about how when he had one of his episodes, he went and got that ice cream tatted on his face, which I did not know that was what happened, but now it makes sense that he was going through a lot then, and because of his diagnosis and him being so impulsive and being erratic and not really caring, because of the diagnosis, it's just he just went and did it. And so I think that was a big eye opener, and it made a lot of sense to a lot of people, because yeah, people get face tattoos, but to get a big ice cream on your face, I think for a lot of people was just a bit confusing. But now when we put two and two together, it's kind of like, okay, it makes sense. He was clearly going through something, and this was his way of expressing it, dealing with it, or whatever the case may be. Now, when it comes to bipolar and schizophrenia, they can overlap and present together. He did talk about experiencing psychotic episodes and basically like hearing voices and things like that. And there is a big stigma when it comes to schizophrenia and just mental health in general. And so I can understand from him why it would be so hard to disclose that. But I think now with them making it public and being able to talk about this being a Black artist when it comes to the music space, it has opened a lot of ears and eyes for a lot of people who might be dealing with their own mental health struggles and finding it hard to express themselves without making themselves look different to people, or whatever that may look like. So in his interview with The Breakfast Club, I believe, he said that in 2020 he experienced an episode during COVID that became a turning point where he said that he realized that he needed help. They also spoke about a lot of the behaviors that he had, which was paranoia, hearing voices, disconnecting from reality, and how in those states relationships broke down. He gave away jewelry, he cut off friends, indicating how severe and real his episodes got. And this is why I speak about mental health, is because people may think that, oh, it's just a normal thing, and it's like, no, people are dealing with a lot of stuff and they tend to mask it with other things and you might not see it. But giving away things that are prized possessions, or cutting yourself off from others and just isolating, is not something that people should do on a regular basis. You should have a support system, whether small or big. They also spoke about his wife's perspective and how she recognized warning signs like isolation, not eating, not sleeping, not communicating, and how she managed the episodes by removing his social media access, resetting his passwords just to protect him during those episodes. And I think that shows a lot, because a lot of people who have these diagnoses, sometimes their family members get burnt out, or family members just don't understand what's going on, and so they just choose not to deal with it. This is why it's important to have a good support system. But I think for him, having a good support system, being able to get treatment was a big factor for him. And I think just having both of those things put him in a better space than others. I've seen people who have bipolar and schizophrenia not get the help that they need, and they end up in situations like out on the street, or going to prison because they're acting erratic out in the street, and police and other people, bystanders, don't understand what's going on and they're scared. And so when we're not educated, we tend to come from a place of fear, and for them, they just say, well, we're just going to throw them in jail. And that doesn't help either, because getting mental health services in the legal system is even harder when you're incarcerated or just in prison. Just coming from being in that world, I've seen what is done to people. So I think it's good that his wife was around and was able to do those things for him, because I can only imagine if she wasn't, where he would have been, today. So, as he continued to get treatment, he, was seeing a therapist, considering medication, and making lifestyle changes to prevent future episodes. He frames this as accountability, wanting to be better, safer, more stable for himself and for his family. He also wanted to talk about his mental health because he wants to help others. He wants to reduce the stigma and show that even a successful rapper can face serious mental health challenges. Like I always say, mental health doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from. Everybody is going to deal with some type of mental health challenge in their world, and that might not be to the extreme of having hallucinations and psychosis. It could be a level of stress, it could be grief, it could be anxiety, or it could be stuff like having suicidal thoughts. People go through things, and I don't think that will dictate whether you have money or not. For the people who do, for the people who are in that space, like celebrities, they might have more access to resources, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't deal with their own mental health struggles. So I do appreciate him for being able to come out and to fully disclose, what has been going on, because we do need to shed a light on these things. There are people out there that are dealing with this stuff in families, and they just, have their own versions of dealing with it, but sometimes that's not working. And I think having somebody in that space kind of helps to alleviate that, it's not just me. There are a lot of people that are dealing with this, and I can overcome this and have a better life for myself. And I didn't really get to read his book, but I think that that's something that I do want to put on to dive more into. But listening to his interviews and everything, he did mention about his book, The Autobiography of Gucci Mane, that he experienced feelings of worthlessness, self-doubt, and extreme emotional highs and lows, which is something I think a lot of people deal with, but they tend to just push to the side and gloss over it and think that they're just gonna manage it however they can. But I do think it's something that needs to be addressed in however way you can. Again, taking breaks, getting help, whatever it is that you need to do. But when you're dealing with these emotions, especially these highs and these lows, it can be very challenging, but it's not something that you can never overcome. So I think when it comes to mental health, the stigma affects Black men um being able to come out into the public like this for a major black hip hop artist can challenge stereotypes and encourage others to seek help, right? So this might potentially influence fans in the hip hop community on opening dialogue, normalizing therapy, medication, and self care, which it already has. There are a lot of people that are speaking about their experiences, but I do think it creates a big effect when it is not only a black person, but it is a black male. Because, again, like I said, they tend to show their toughness and they don't want to be vulnerable, and they think that talking about the things that they have been through is a sign of weakness, when it's really not. We also want to talk about the systemic issues of mental health access, the cultural pressures, incarceration, substance use, factors that often intersect with the lives of people that are not only famous, but regular people like myself. There are a lot of people that don't have access to mental health. There are a lot of people that insurances don't cover much and they don't have the money out of pocket. But I do think that there are a lot of resources nowadays where you can find a therapist that's willing to work with you, find an agency or something that's willing to help, because we all know that if you don't deal with your mental health issues, it's going to be very hard to deal with your daily life. So I think with him speaking about these things, it really just shows us that he is not a rapper that had issues, right? He's just a human being that's going through a lot, or has been through a lot, and is continuing to work on themselves, and understanding that this life is not easy, but when you do decide to make a change, that it is going to be worth it. There's never a specific time when it comes to get help, but I do think that it's better to address it than to continue to have it go on for years and years and years. If you have something going on with yourself, get the help, look for it, ask for support. Make sure that you're getting the proper diagnosis. And a diagnosis is not something that you have to carry on with yourself. It could just be something temporary. Like I've said before, it could be dealing with depression, right now. Get help, get medication, whatever it is that you need to get. You're doing fine in life, and all of a sudden now you're experiencing grief and you're right back in that space again. But the thing is, now that you have gone through the treatment and you get those coping skills and stuff, you're able to deal with those lows in a better way than you would have before, because you have the proper coping skills and you know how to manage it. Mental health is not a linear process. There's a lot of ups and downs. People do tend to relapse, but I think the thing is that you're addressing it and that you're continuing to do something about it instead of just ignoring it like it didn't happen. So I appreciate Gucci for coming out and just speaking about this, and not only that, his wife being able to show as a supportive person and showing family members and friends that they can be there for those who are dealing with these things, and being able to make an impact. Substance use plays a big role when it comes to our culture, and a lot of times we tend to play it as if it's a fun thing and this and that, which it can be if you do it responsibly. But if you're doing it all the time because you're in pain, I think that that's where it becomes a big issue. So I think for Gucci, the importance of mental health awareness and seeking help is something that he really, really highlighted on, especially for those who are struggling with addiction and other mental health challenges. Him being open about his experiences also helps to reduce the mental health stigma, like I said, in the music industry, where vulnerability is kind of overlooked. So I think with him being one of those people, especially coming from Atlanta and being in that world, it definitely opened the eyes for a lot of people, and I'm hoping that he continues to build off of that, and a lot of people continue to learn from his story and open up themselves. And not only that, just show other little black boys and show men just in general that it's okay to be open and vulnerable, of course with the right people in the right setting, to be able to address issues that you might have instead of holding on to them. So I want to thank you guys for watching another video. I will continue to put the content out there, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.